Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we have an awesome show today. I think everyone's going to like this. We're talking about a great movie that's just come out. It's called The Retaliators. It's a new Christmas horror film. And you'll hear in the interview when we discuss it, and it is indeed. And we've learned it from the writer and one of the stars and director. So the interview is with writer Darren Geare and one of the directors, producers, and star. He's the lead guy in this thing, and it's MICHAEL Lombardi. I'll tell you, it was one of my favorite interviews we've done. I can't wait for everyone to hear it because it was just so fun to talk to them because you could tell they're our kind of people. I mean, they're into the same things we are, you can tell, and they had such a fun time making this movie, and they had so much passion for it, and you'll hear that I think in the interview.
It's a really good.
Really came out great.
I love hearing behind the scenes stories that you'll get to hear in this interview.
Yeah.
And some of the challenges they ran into were really fascinating, and then a lot of the thought process behind the performances and the writing and everything. Just really, really good information if you're a movie fan. So I think you guys are going to absolutely love that interview.
Yes.
But before we get to that, let's get into our first chop.
Yeah, so I'll start off. I rekindled my Amityville project.
Yeah. I think you should just set it on fire at this point. Just forget about the kindling.
Seriously, yeah. I only watched one movie, but I'm talking about two because technically I watched Amityville Island for last year's, just recently for last year's, I think, horror challenge. Not the most recent one, but so I decided not to rewatch it again just because I may be running out of time here with these Amityvilles because the rate they're produced and coming out, and the way I get to watch them, it will never end. So I have to cut a corner somewhere. So since I just watched that about a year ago, I just kind of didn't rewatch that one again. That was the one where it's like, they decided because, Amity, I guess let's throw a shark in there. Why not? Because it's, of course. And this one was about some women's prison on an island with a killer shark that appears once in a while. I don't even remember the Amityville connection to that at all, other than it's probably like Amityville Prison Women's Facility or something in it. I don't know. The next one I watched, though, was Amityville Harvest, which this is the one I was actually looking forward to. I mean, it was one of the producers on it was Felissa Rose. Oh, okay. Of course, who we know very well. Stars, and one of the stars is Sadie Katz, who we know, and she, you figure, I mean, that's like Sadie Katz is pretty big, but for some reason, this movie was just, I mean, horribly confusing. I mean, the Amityville connection again was very scarce. Other than that, they tried to make you think it took place in Amityville. Like, I have a feeling this is one of those Hellraiser sequel things where this movie was done and they needed to tack on Amityville, so they put a scene of someone arriving at the Amityville train station, where they show the sign, which being at that station many a times, there is no waiting room. That looks like the waiting room they showed in there. And number one, and then two, at the end they show an Amityville sign. So it's like, I have a feeling this was never intended to be an Amityville movie at all because there's really no mention throughout it.
They just slapped it on there for publicity.
Yeah, this one is weird. It's about the premise seems kind of neat. It was like this documentary film crew was going to interview this guy that owns I think it was a funeral home that used to also be a orphanage. So basically anything that could be haunted in movie history, it was in there. Yeah, and so, but I guess it was a prior documentary crew that disappeared or something, or no, I'm sorry, wait, no, that was Cohn's idea how to improve it. I'm getting confused. Yeah, no, this one was a documentary crew. They were trying to interview this guy, and I could see there was an effort here to make this more enjoyable, but I was just, it was 90 minutes, but it felt like it dragged. I don't know if it's because Tubi and had it and it had commercials, but I don't think that was it. But I mean, there's like sequences where literally they walk in to a room entitled The Casket Room, and the line is that a casket? So, yeah, I mean, That's the kind of stuff you're getting. Yeah, so it's a combination. Yeah, I heard my notes here. It's a combination funeral parlor that used to be an orphanage, and I wrote because of course. Literally, it's like they took everything that horror movies use to be haunted and go. But then apparently, the guy, which you thought was just a creepy dude, it turns out he's a vampire.
Oh my gosh!
Also,
Seriously.
Yeah, I really, like I said, this thing was so utterly confusing, but. You know what? At this point, nothing surprises me with these Amityville movies. I mean, especially with the ones I know I have coming up. I mean, there's even like a Christmas comedy Amityville movie in the cards now. I
think you could safely skip that one.
I don't know. I think I feel like now at this point I have to watch everything.
Oh,
you
man.
know? I don't even know what's coming up next. I'm afraid to look. I mean, but I think I think actually there's one of the good ones, one of the cool ones I heard about is coming. Like I know the Amityville Witches is coming up soon, and Amityville Poltergeist, I think, is in there somewhere coming up. Like, there's some ones that I heard were pretty good. But then again, it's like I've heard that about a lot of these things and ended up being disappointed. Yeah, so I have Amityville Poltergeist next and Witches of Amityville Academy. Then, just to give you a quick, I get Amityville Clown, Amityville Hex, Amityville Vampire, which I thought is what I just might have watched. Then Amityville Cop, Amityville Scarecrow.
Is Amityville Cop star Eddie Murphy? Like,
I wish it would. How great would that be? Can you imagine that? Like, the house is haunted. Like, wouldn't that be great?
Be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. And just to know, and then of course there's the Amityville in the Hood is coming up. Amityville. I'm looking forward to Amityville Karen. That's the one.
That one looks amazing.
That was Emily's second favorite one when we were talking about it that she wanted us to see, because of course the Amityville Vibrator was the first one on that list, and now it's Amityville Karen she wants to see. And thank God, poor Julie. I watch these. I try and spare Julie at least. I watch these when she's at work on Saturday, so poor Obi has to see it with me. But Julie is spared at least from watching these just god awful Amityville sequels. But yeah. Anyway, so Tim, you watched a much better movie.
Yeah, I watched Resurrection, which came out this year. Of course, this is the Rebecca Hall vehicle. I will watch anything with Rebecca Hall, no questions asked. I think she's a brilliant actress, and she is especially brilliant in this movie. I mean, she has some real chances to show her acting chops in this film, and it also stars Tim Roth, and she plays this woman that is kind of running from a really troubled past. You find out that she's had some trauma when she was much younger. She's since moved on with her life. She has a 17-year-old daughter. She's trying to, she has a successful career. And at some point, she was at a conference or something, and she sees this man, played by Tim Roth, from her past, and just completely goes into panic attack mode. I mean, she's just like flipping out. And I won't give anything away because the movie is, as it plays out, you learn who this man is, why she's so upset, and it is truly terrifying. It plays into a lot of things about coercion and control and that kind of thing, but the performances are just amazing, and it gets really weird, and not in a bad way. I'm saying it gets weird in a really makes you think kind of way. There are no easy answers to this movie. It will make you think about it long after it's over with. So I cannot recommend Resurrection enough. You need to go watch it. I think it's on Shudder right now.
Yes, it is.
So
it is,
yeah, if you even slightly like the work of Rebecca Hall, there's a point in this movie where she does a 7.5 minute monologue, and the camera never breaks away from her. It's amazing. So,
well, how could you? She's very, very engaging. In fact, I think she's got to be put in our dream guest category.
Oh man, yes, anytime. Yeah. She is just wonderful. So nice. Yeah, highly recommend.
Yeah, I want to see. I just picked up. I still haven't watched it yet, sadly, but I picked up like in that sale that Cone sent us for Best Buy. I picked up The Night House.
Oh yeah, so, that's a good one. Yeah.
So I want to see that. So. Now we got a little bit of. I guess what we'll do is I'll take one, you take the second one here. We got to a little bit of a promo here going here. And so I'll do the first one. Bring Smile home on digital. Sosie Bacon stars in this terrifying horror, which critics are calling haunting and scary as hell. Buy Smile on digital now and face your fears with over an hour of heart-pounding bonus content, including the original short film that started it all, which I believe I've seen, actually. Available at participating retailers, rated R from Paramount Pictures.
Yes, I'm so looking forward to watching that. I'm going to watch it this weekend.
Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus now, too. You can watch that, but get it on digital instead.
Yeah, and this one is another one I'm so looking forward to. A24 and Lionsgate welcome you back to Ty West's horrifying world of X with the blood-soaked and unforgettable origin story, Pearl. Mia Goth delivers one of the best performances of the year as the iconic villain, Pearl. Certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. Own Pearl now on Blu-ray and digital, rated R.
Yeah, mine just arrived, so I have my digital copy loaded up. I think I'm gonna watch that that's gonna be my on the plane movie when I travel this week. So I think I'm saving that for the plane, which I think will be a nice one. Hopefully, there's not too much like whoever's seated to my right. Hopefully they like horror because that's what I'm watching. But yeah, so those are two amazing movies, two probably the top horror movies of the year.
Yeah, arguably, yeah.
Are right there. So
all right, so let's get right into our interview with Michael Lombardi and Darren Geare. These guys were fantastic. I was so happy to have them on because I really like this movie that we're going to talk about after the interview. But I'm just going to let them take it away. Again, a fantastic guest. Would be happy to have them on at any time, and it was just such a treat to hear them talk about a movie that Brian and I just love so much. So here it is, our interview with Michael Lombardi and Darren Geare. All right, guys, we have with us tonight a producer, director, and star of the new movie The Retaliators, Michael Lombardi, and writer Darren Geare. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing great. Yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming on. We love the movie. First question's for Michael. I'm sure many of our listeners already know you well from your numerous TV appearances. So can you tell us a little bit how you got into the entertainment business?
Yeah, wow. Well, first, I do want to thank you because you thanked us for being on, but anytime we can talk, about such a passion project like this and have people want to talk about it, it means a lot to us. So thank you. And to tie that into probably how I got started in this, it was all based on passion and love and, and dreams, really. I was in a band. I was in New York City, and I was going to this place called the Drummers Collective. I think it's called the Collective now, and they have, bass, drums, and more of like a rhythm-oriented type of school. And I played the drums a lot when I was younger. And anyway, from there, I found acting, and I enrolled into what is called the William Esper Studio. And Bill Esper is an incredible acting teacher. He teaches the Sanford Meisner. He's like a legendary guy. And some of the best studied there. I just got very lucky that I ended up there. I did like a summer course and then got hooked and went into the full program. But some of the best, Kathy Bates, Jeff Goldblum, Sam Rockwell, what I like to refer to as like actors, and some of the people I most admire have come out of that school. So it was an incredible place for me to come up and cut my teeth. So that's where I started. And then from there, I just did a lot of plays in New York City, produced myself, little off-Broadway shows, and, just was lucky enough to start.
Awesome.
And so this one, we're going to get into the Retaliators as fast as possible. We don't, because we have a lot to talk about here. So Darren, what can you tell us a little bit about the film so far and the writing process for all our listeners? That I know there might be some spoilers, but we'll put a warning out there. So if you don't worry about accidentally saying anything.
Yeah, no worries. The Retaliators is it's about an upstanding pastor, a true, kind of throwback good guy, like a Jimmy Stewart in a Frank Capra film, kind of a good guy. Michael and I talked a lot about the script and the film, and really it's sort of, we start in this kind of almost like a Gremlins sort of picturesque kind of town around Christmas time. Tragedy strikes, and you pretty much get it in the trailer that this beloved man of the community, his daughter is killed in a pretty in a cold-blooded fashion. While he is dealing with that grief, he is presented with the provocative question of, we've got the guy, and would you like a minute alone with the guy who killed your daughter? And from there, hell sort of breaks loose and chaos ensues, and it ends up being a pretty twisty kind of thrill ride, kind of an experience. If you watch the trailer, it feels like, oh, this seems like in the line of like a Death Wish, and I'm a huge Charles Bronson fan, and a big fan of his 70s films and even the 80s canon films and all that. So it's an influence. It's there, but it's not what the movie is. It takes sort of a kind of a hard left turn at a certain point and goes into some unexpected areas.
Yeah, you mentioned the trailer a couple times, and I've been doing this new thing. I was really big on trailers, but now I think it started recently with seeing the movie Barbarian. I start going into things blind now. I don't, if I can avoid it. So I went into this blind. Smart. So I didn't know really what to expect other than the little description. And I was so blown away, like you said, with it, where it like starts off one way as you think it's going to go, and it just like takes this complete turn into something that I didn't expect. And, I think what makes it so good is like that. You almost had at the beginning kind of lulls you into it. There's even some great foreshadowing in there, but you don't know quite what you're trying to get at yet. And then it just like the next thing you know, you like buckle yourself in and you're all for this great ride of this. So, I mean, I don't know if as you were writing it, if you intended to get that kind of exactly that kind of pull to it, but it really was fantastic.
It means the world to hear that. I know for Michael and I both, because creatively we were so passionate about the vision of the film and what we went for in the script. But yeah, we very intentionally, there's some movies that I think have done it really well. Movies like, I think the ultimate would be Audition, but From Dusk Till Dawn and Hostel, the first Hostel. There's just something, my brother and I, my writing partner, that we just love about movies that start somewhere and then just go into a completely different direction. So the movie is more like this unfolding experience, because just twists in and of themselves, they can be kind of cheap. You can get to the end of a movie and go, oh, so everything we were just watching is now nothing like what we thought it was. And I don't mean the classic twist. I think obviously the classics are the classics for a reason, but that was intentional from the beginning. We really wanted to, have the audience feel like, oh, okay, I've seen this movie before. I think I know where this is going, and then just completely subvert that. And it was a challenge, to get across the finish line. Michael was the guy fighting all the way, because the easier choice is to go, well, then let's just make this a kind of a template mystery thriller, or if we're going to go horror, then let's make these things in the movie, let's just make them zombies, and let's figure out a way to actually make them supernatural. Like we had a lot of resistance, to say the least, to keep the vision, and it was, so to hear appreciation for it, I know it warms the cockles of our heart, because it was our crazy sort of passion to give that ride to an audience. That was the goal.
Tim and I always joke, because our wives, whenever we watch movies with them, they usually figure things out in the first 5 minutes. So I like when I find these kind of movies that I could eventually show them and say, Hussy, you're not going to figure this one out right away. It's going to be different than you think.
You won't. Yeah.
I was just going to say what I think is important to this film too is obviously Darren and his brother are pretty twisted, right? I mean, and I guess I'm just as twisted for falling in love with the thing and wanting to make it, but it came from their brains. So I think this, revenge. Darren has said it to me often, and he articulates it very well, and it resonated with me from when we were talking about the script, and sort of drove a lot of my passion as well. That revenge is the oldest tale in the book, right? It's like Shakespeare talking about love, or like as Darren said, I think he said this to me, and I loved it early on. It's like caveman, a saber-toothed tiger, attacks a caveman's kid, the clan goes after him, right? So it's been told a million times, but I think what's so unique about this journey is who it happens to, the way in which it's told, and the twists and turns that it does take. And I think there's a few different things going on, and perhaps some could say a few different genres in this film. And that's what was really hard. And I think for people who, it's not for everybody, right? But no film that I want to make, or no good film that I enjoy, is for everyone. So to me, I think that you either get it or you don't, and you see the little Easter eggs and the hints and sort of where we go with this thing. Darren mentioned Charlie Bronson. He mentioned, a Dante-esque sort of Gremlins-y, Spielbergian beginning into this crazy later part of the film, and it's a slow burn and it's story driven. I remember saying, Darren, when I read the script, man, I even thought of Sin City, and like graphic novel stuff in this. Everything that I named to him that I fell in love with, because our influences are very aligned, he was like, yes, oh my God, yeah. And one point he threw out Thinking Man's Hostel, and like there's a lot of different ingredients in this recipe, and it's crazy because when you're trying to make a film like this, not everyone does get it, even making it, or the vision, and then let alone people who see it. So I think one of the things that we're proud of is it is resonating, as Darren said, with some people who are picking up on it. So that's cool.
Yeah, you guys more eloquently put it than I could, but
Yeah.
as I was watching it, you as a moviegoer, you think you know what's going to happen because you've seen a million movies where the guy, something happens to his daughter, and Liam Neeson picks up the phone and says he's going to get revenge, and so you kind of know how it's going to play out. And I expected it. And I was still enjoying it. There's nothing wrong with those kind of movies. I enjoy those too. But and as it kept going on, I'm like, what am I watching? Like every time I thought I had it figured out, it swung this way. And like you said, it wasn't cheap plot twist. It was just, we're going to go on a roller coaster, and it's not going to be just one drop. It's going to be multiples. So I really, really did like that about the film. And you're right, it does have quite a few genre elements. I don't know where I would quite place this movie in terms of, it's not pure horror, it's not pure thriller, it's not pure revenge flick, but I love movies like that because they're unique.
It's even a Christmas film.
It is even a Christmas movie. That's right. We'll get to that. We got a question about that.
We got a question about that one. So.
So Michael, like you were pointing out, the film deals with the moral dilemmas of getting revenge. When does revenge go too far? And there's always a moral dilemma there. We talk about that with the death penalty, for instance, in real life. Where do you draw the line, I guess? In this case, your character Bishop also happens to be a pastor, which makes that contrast really stark. How did you approach that character? Did you have any inspirations when playing him?
Yeah, very much so. I think first of all, you just have to find the truth in the character and sort of what made him who he is. Like, why is he here? What happened? What are the relationships? And what's really nice is you sort of do all this research. And for me, I have to say that one of the biggest gifts is having access to the writers. And that's what I had, and I was fortunate to have. And as an actor, and I think a producer or anybody who's making film, that's key. You need to connect, and you need to understand where this came from. And what you do is, what I did was a lot of research, talked to Darren, talked out ideas, and found, I like the angle of playing John Bishop as a passive guy, but how does he then become this badass, right? Or how does he, when we're peeling back the onion, what is deep inside of him that is allowing him to possibly stand up without giving too much away? And for me, without getting too like thespian and too into it, I remember I said, maybe when he was younger, he got into like a bar fight, right? And he knocked a guy out and the guy almost died, hit his head. So he started to go down a very dark road and perhaps he got in trouble. And then he met his wife, whose father was a pastor, and now it turned him to be a good guy and a man of the cloth. So what I liked about tagging on that being his wife, because his wife is no longer with us. He's a single dad. And when something happens to his daughter, he sees his wife, of course, in his daughter. That's the only living, attachment that he had. So I'm going deep and I'm sort of like, I hope I'm articulating and you guys are understanding it. But what I basically wanted to do was put something deep inside his core that needs to be revealed later when he's pushed and when this terrible incident happens. And what I did do is I went to many pastors, modern day sermons rather, and I studied because it's crazy. There's rock bands and there's all kinds of stuff that happens now. So that was like, because I remember Darren and his brother had in the script, he's a rock star in this environment. And it sort of made me, when I gave the sermon, just kind of like, open my eyes, open my arms and feel so comfortable. This is his place. So it's all these little things you do to sort of layer the guy, right, and find the truth in it. And one other thing, and I think this is important to mention, is, if you have a son or a daughter or a niece or a nephew, and you can think about something happening to them, it's just absolutely horrible, right? So this path that he needs to go on and this loss that he experiences, what does that mean to him? But I think there's something worth mentioning. I found this YouTube clip, and it was a guy who you literally, if you were to cast him, you'd cast him as a math teacher, right? Like really thin, like skinny guy, glasses. He's in court. This is real life. He's in court, and he has a moment to speak to his son's killer. It's at the end of the trial, and he's standing there, and the two guards are on each side of him, and he starts to address him, saying, "How could you do this? My son was..." And all of a sudden, he lets out this howl from the depths of his soul. And it was like so animalistic and primal. And he was like, "Ah!" And he jumped at the guy, grabbed a pencil and started stabbing the guy.
Oh my God.
Guards had to pull him off. But you can tell they understood, even though he's hurting a person. Right. And they pulled him off, and he was just, and he had to get taken out. And of course, it's not like he's going to get put in jail for doing that, right? But it was that primal instinct and that I needed to tap into. It was really nice to see that and find. So it was about doing all this research, that and layers upon other things that I'll just bore you with. But I think the bottom line is you do all that research, right? And then you just put your 2 feet on the ground in the scene, and you just let it like live there and live truthfully under the circumstance. Because what you don't want to do is try to push it out, like if you meet someone who was in a concentration camp, you might have a very long conversation with them and never know that, right? But it's somewhere inside. So you try to just trust the work enough ahead of time. And I love this writing so much, and it jumped off the page at me that I really related to it. So there was a lot of time to put in understanding the relationships and the character, and then just letting it roll.
That's like like an incredible answer. Like,
that was a very good answer. Yeah. I hope this doesn't sound weird, but I had this unshakable. I'm a huge Karate Kid fan. I'm a huge Cobra Kai fan, and I had this unshakable Ralph Macchio vibe going on with you, Mike, with your character, Michael, at the beginning of this movie. Where he's a very likable guy, but you could feel there was some tension under there that was going to, at some point, was going to come out. And I really got that vibe very strongly. So I guess that's just a testament to your performance there, because I thought that came across really well.
Wow, thanks. Yeah, I think it's, what's crazy is I've been doing this a long time, for whatever level, like doing plays or a little guest star, whatever it is. And I did a play with Ralph Macchio's daughter, by the way. And
oh wow,
part of it. It was really cool. I got to meet him a few times, and he came to the play. It was really cool. But anyway, I think, it's like a really good drummer on the drums. Maybe they don't have to like play too many fills. Maybe they're comfortable with just sitting in the pocket, and the hi-hat and the snare and hanging in there, because they can do the fills, right? But like maybe a new drummer wants to overplay. And I guess what I'm getting at is what I experienced, and I'm really talking about it for the first time now, is maybe I trusted everything is my point. And it's cool that you saw it there. I never felt like I needed to push anything out. I trusted the work, and I guess my attachment, as I said earlier, to the writing and the script, and you just layer it in there. But yeah, anyway, it's a crazy road, the arts and acting, and you learn a lot every time, man, and hopefully you get better, or maybe you get worse, but that in the end, that's getting you somewhere. I don't know,
Yeah,
I love too that you mentioned Karate Kid, and that's because throughout the film, especially early in the film, we not so subtly, the movie is very much also with the other things that it is, a bit of a love letter to action heroes from the 80s and action movies from the 80s, and Rambo and Terminator, Bruce Willis, they're all name dropped in the movie, and so I think it's cool that Daniel LaRusso is in that same lineage of just the spirit of those 80s films, where obviously it's just that was my Rocky. When I saw Karate Kid as a kid, I remember like it was yesterday. I was really small, but I just I was too young for Rocky 1 anyway. Rocky 4, I guess, was my movie theater Rocky, but it's just cool that you picked up on that, because that was very much the intention of Michael's character, was to go through the transformation of underdog all the way to sort of larger than life at the end.
Yeah, I remember coming back from Karate Kid after I saw it in the theater, and crane kicking my brother from the top of the couch. So I have a lot of fond memories of that.
Yeah, and Karate Kid was that one. I remember seeing that. That was one of the first movies I remember where, I think I might have seen. I don't know. I think Rocky 3 was the first I saw in the theater, but the Karate Kid I remember strong because the whole. I remember my dad took me to see it. It was a weeknight. And we went and saw it, and I just remember the whole audience like cheering and you came out of that, like if you didn't come out of that movie as like a young person pumped up, and like Tim said, like my brothers were a little too young, so I didn't really want to kick them, but like I remember the next day I was at day camp and everyone had seen it at that point, and we were all like just mimicking it. So yeah, it's like I think anyone our age group probably totally kind of like is going to get that, a little bit of that vibe for sure. Maybe not as astute as Tim. He's quite astute with these things, but so this is okay, so it's back to Michael real quick. So you wore a couple of hats in this film. I mean, you were one of the producers, you actually were one of the directors and the star. So what kind of challenge did you have juggling that? I mean, I suppose it made it a lot easier, like you said, because you had a lot of contact with Darren, and which is not always the case, I guess, with the writers and especially the actors. But so what was that like? Did you have was there any challenges trying to juggle all that at once?
Yeah, where to start on this. There were so many challenges. Again, you're trying to get. It's one thing to read a script, fall in love with it, but then to make the film, right? And then it's a whole nother thing. Yeah, like shooting it, and then a whole nother thing editing it. But there were so many challenges. We also had to deal with COVID. And COVID.
Oh, right, yeah.
We shot this during COVID. But I think like there's egos, there's things that go wrong, there's a location you can't get, so now you have to pivot and figure it out, and it's very challenging. They're very, very long days. Making a film is very, very difficult. It's all about your crew. My crew is amazing. These guys work to the bone, literally their fingers to the bone every day, 12, 13-hour, 14-hour days. And then, as I said, with COVID, and the thing for me was then, I learned so much. Again, I produced this thing because I needed to make the film. I had a little taste in that. Oh, you know what? it's so funny. I can't talk about this without saying it, and it just popped into my head. I was on a television show called Rescue Me for a long time.
Yeah.
New York City firefighters post 9/11, and I bring up his name because Dennis Leary was the star of the show. So I did just about 100 episodes of that show, right? And little did I understand how much I was learning about everything, but also he was the producer and he was the star. So his passion, he knew what he wanted for the film, and he's for the show, and he had his vision, and he knew the music and where he wanted it. So I actually ended up learning. I was able to implement a lot of the things that I guess I picked up on from him that I didn't realize I was. But it was a long, several years, and next to him, and sort of being able to take that in. So it was very helpful in this case. And for things like being exhausted, like 14-hour day, getting home and then having to take an hour-long shower to get the blood off, and this is a pretty physical role. And look, I'm not complaining. I'm not like digging ditches, right? It's fun. We're playing, we're acting, but then having to deal with and put all the fires out and prepare for the next day. And then, this person was exposed to someone with COVID. We have to do this. It cost the production a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
And everything too. But it was cool. After the beginning of the film, my character's pretty exhausted anyway, right? So luckily, you figure out to use what you have. I was drained and shot all the time, right? Emotionally, physically, but you use that for the character. And then, like I said, I would pop out of bed the next morning ready to roll because of the excitement of making the film, but pretty beat down, and it all worked for the character in this case.
Yeah, Darren, for the writing angle of it, how when you create it, was it easy to, because I'm sure, like, I mean, I'm only assuming, but like writers, when they're with the film, they'll make a couple of modifications on it, they'll make some adjustments. Is that easier when you have someone that's also that's kind of writing, directing, producing, and in it, rather than like where it's all different people?
Oh, it was, well, I mean, there's the writing of the script was in such a vacuum because it was my brother and myself. And then when you're in production, it is, and it was such a privilege that we were included and we got to do the rewrites, and we were trusted with that. And as Michael was saying, because of COVID, especially, it created so many production complications, having to switch coasts, actors dropping out, actors coming back in. Luckily, through all of it, nobody got sick, thank goodness. But obviously, these were the early days of COVID. So the most, what Michael and I we talk about it all the time because it was so satisfying. The final stage of writing the script was having to go in and tackle these rewrites, again, production challenges. So we weren't able to get X or Y, so we would have to now figure out a new way to do it, figure out a better way to do it. And that was extremely fun and rewarding because my brother and I would write, well, we would talk it out with Michael. What do we need? What do we need to achieve? What do we want? Again, because we align creatively so much, it was nothing but a joy, nothing but fun. And we got it. We knew, again, more than anybody, he understood what that third act needed to be. And other people we were trying to creatively work with, it wouldn't go that way. They didn't see it. Michael did. So the experience of writing, and then when Michael was directing, was incredible because we would talk it out. We would go write. And our goal was, let's make Michael laugh. Let's make him squirm. If we're not making him squirm, if we're not making him, giggle either from the gore or from the lines or from this, and if we got like okay, it's okay, guys, it's good. It's like, okay, we got to go back. Let's do it again. And we worked everything you see was meticulously worked out. That whole sequence, without giving anything away, the whole sequence at the end, when it the sort of end when we go into a cabin, all of that, the fights and the we had so many things that we needed to wrap up and to bring the story to a close. And getting there was we went through all of it together, and then so it was very rewarding. And then Michael being able, because we did so much work, when he would got to the set, and as the director, I just feel like he just nailed those scenes. The scenes he directed are some of my favorite in the film. So yeah, it was, but it was very different because writing before that, you're in the vacuum. In production, it's just a whole other thing. We were very lucky to be a part of it.
Yeah,
and I just want to add, it's about trust too. It's a, I was so lucky because I trust Darren so much that when I'm out, my feet are on the ground and I'm out there fighting battles, and I'd be, Darren, we need to do this. What do you think? To have a partner like that gives you the fuel, to go and fight these battles, and that might be even the cold, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, it could be in the middle of the night outside, or a person, or like not getting whatever. But it's really important to have that partnership. And I've heard other filmmakers talk about it, but I'm genuinely speaking, like that partnership's really important, because I said it earlier, it's not easy. And you question yourself, you question things, you're getting questioned. So when you really want to make the film that you want to make, we were able to do that because we were so connected and we went out there. And there's one other thing, and then I know you want to speak, so I apologize. I think I cut you off.
Oh, no, it's okay. No, it's okay.
We brought in Randy Bricker, who edited this film. Now, what we said was, hey, look, we need a guy who can do story, action, and horror. And Randy Bricker, he's been around so long. He was an apprentice on the movie The Firm with Tom Cruise. Like, he was an apprentice editor. He worked on I Am Legend. He worked on the Halloween franchise.
Oh, nice.
He's been around, and now he's currently like the head editor on the Chucky series. So
wow.
Guy, he became.
Yeah, he did a Texas Chainsaw, a Hellraiser, 2 Chucky movies, like all over.
Oh,
yeah, that's awesome.
And so he became like Darren and I's third guy. You know what I mean? When we were talking on the phone about going out and getting this, we believed in him so much, and he put everything together in a really incredible way that we had. So I always have to give such a nod to him and his partnership as well. To me, it was Darren and Randy creatively on set. We were, the guys.
Yeah, I was going to just say, I hope this doesn't come off as insensitive, but I still find it fascinating when I hear about productions, because we've talked to a number of different filmmakers that had to film through COVID, and it's always amazing to me to hear on how the stories of that, on how through a restriction they may have come out with, had to overcome a challenge that made the film not only but sometimes better and more rewarding, but like just that much more satisfying. And I think it's still crazy to hear, because it's not that long ago, but it seems like so long ago, and
Right.
Yeah.
and it's still, we're hearing these stories, and I just find it so fascinating when I hear like it's had to overcome that. Like, it's hard enough. I mean, before COVID, we used to talk to filmmakers and all these challenges, but then to have that on top of it all, which like could literally disrupt a story and have to go a different way because you can't film this.
Brutal. Get this really quickly too. We're in Henderson, Nevada, 19 days. I did, I think, 21 or 22 COVID tests I had to take.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Now we had to do the 24-hour turnaround, which at that time they were really expensive, right? I think they were $500 or $600 a test.
Oh my gosh.
You had to have a runner from Nevada to LA. That's where the lab was, running them. So it cost like $68,000 or something, right? Now, beside that, we were filming with the crew, right? So I'm like, I'm bringing the main guys with me to Nevada, right? Because I think we were in Connecticut before that. So I'm like, we've been around one another. When we were shooting in Connecticut, this is cool. SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and rightfully so, they were very, very concerned and being, taking every measure as they should with a production. And we were all sort of learning, right? And feeling our way through this. So they send a rep to Connecticut. This is in March, 2019, Darren, when it first started, right? And they
March 2020.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
So they send a rep, And he said to me, he comes down and I'm like, hey, you stay over there, right? We're already together. I gave him a tent.
That's your bubble. You're already there.
Yeah, we were in our bubble. He said we were the second to last production in the world still filming at that.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Arizona. And we ended up going another day. So I was pretty excited. Then we shut down. But last part, to jump back to Henderson. So now we shut down for a little while, and you start to feel like a madman too. Like, I'm so driven to do this film, and I'm like, am I putting people in danger? You know, because I have the crew that I have to take care of, and safety's always number one. And you start to like, I'm like, no, come on, we have to. And then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So we shut down. We go back to Henderson. We shoot. The locations guy was the only guy we used from there. Otherwise, I brought my whole crew. And turns out I'm on my way to set in the morning, 6 a.m. I get a 911 text. I'm like, oh shit, pick it up. We were testing at the hotel, by the way, because you don't test when you get to set. There's all these different, standards and that they had put in, people cleaning the stations, the different protocols. So anyway, I get it. I'm like, oh man, who is it? Is it my DP? If it's our DP, we're done, right? So it was the locations guy.
Oh no.
He got COVID. He tested it.
Oh, no.
COVID. People were masked up and near him, but he never came to set. SAG gets word of it. It's like a Tuesday or Wednesday. They shut us down by the end of that day. Now, get this. We're shut down. I'm calling SAG every day. We're shut down Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it might have been a Wednesday. I might be. So we just missed Thursday and Friday. Point is, it was a few days. Monday morning, we finally, we get to go again. They thought like 8 people had COVID, but there were 8 people around the like exposed to it, if that makes sense. So in other words, we got shut down for like 4 or 5 days, and they didn't even have the information. Now, I think they were right at the time. We had to not let this thing spread, right? Yeah. But it's another thing that was so difficult to, it's a lot of money. I have the whole crew there. Yeah. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get to a huge part of this movie that I'm really interested to hear about, and that's the music, because this movie has a ton of, it's got a rock soundtrack, it's got a ton of cameos and stuff from some really big rock stars. I want to hear how this all came about. I don't know who's best to answer this one, but you guys take it.
Well, I've been talking a lot, so I'll start it up. Basically, when I read the script, I fell in love with it. It's crazy serendipity that I was. So get this. I didn't tell you this part. How I felt, how I got the script was Darren and I used to write music together. Darren had a band, I had a band, and we were just so, like we keep saying, creatively aligned. I'm on the East Coast. He's in Southern California. So when I'd go out to LA, I'd drive and meet him and stuff. So a lot of years had passed and we hadn't talked. And I was on a set of another film, and I was doing a charity event at my kid's school. And there's a lot of artists in the community, and music managers and actors, and so it was like set up where I'd sing a song. I was going to sing a song, host the thing, do like a monologue, and then interview other people. So I wanted to play this song, When Heaven and Hell Collide, that Darren and I had written together years ago. So it needed to be dropped a half step, and I think it was already in drop D, right, Darren?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, I hadn't talked to Darren in years. I'm doing this charity event. I call him and I go, hey, my band's not going to be here. I'm playing with a house band. I want to do this song, When Heaven and Hell Collide. What do you think? If I drop it, is it going to sound too muddy? What have you been up to? He's like, we've been writing screenplays, me and my brother. And I'm like, what? I'm like, send them, because I knew how incredibly talented they were. So they sent me the screenplay. I fell in love with it, as I told you, and I pointed out all those things that we connected on. That the Dante had the Gremlins, this, blah, blah, and I go and do the charity event. I sing the song When Heaven and Hell Collide. A guy named Alan Kovac is there. Alan Kovac, because you asked about the music, is the CEO and founder of a company called Better Noise Music. He's a legendary music manager. He represents over 40 major rock bands, including Motley Crue, Five Finger Death Punch, Papa Roach, on and on. Amazing bands, right? He used to represent the Bee Gees back in the day, and Blondie and Meatloaf. He still has Blondie, but Debbie Harry. So we go for dinner afterward. We become friends through this. I kind of knew him through the community before that for a while, but we become friends. And he says, I want to do something with you someday, And then I said, I have the script, The Retaliators. I thought it was a perfect fit for your, musicians and some. And then it just went from there. Right? But anyway.
what was there's so many serendipitous things that occurred in this film getting made. One of them was the music, because what's so weird to look back on is that when we wrote the script, we got coverage from where the film's read and then professionally graded and all of that stuff, right? And we got coverage from some studios and a professional place called The Blacklist. What was funny, in the script, there was no mention of music ever. There was no mention of this song plays while this happens. That just wasn't in the script. And we kept getting feedback, very enthusiastic feedback, about, like, they would say there was just things like the third act feels like watching the birth of metal. It was like stuff like that. It was like there was a studio interested in the film, and the guy reached out and said, I handed the script to my boss and said, if you ever want to read something that's you would call metal as fuck, it's this script. And it was so funny because believe it or not, the third act in the script was even crazier than the third act that made it into the movie. So it really went crazy, even crazier in some ways. And so when Michael put that together to take that to Alan, and Alan had that vision from right away. He at first it was about the soundtrack, and what was so exciting about that is that talk about a tradition that's gone away that was such a part of our childhoods of having the event movie with the event soundtrack, whether it was Lost Boys or Bill and Ted's or The Crow. I mean, just on and on. There's just so many examples. And so that was exciting in and of itself. Like, oh, we'll get people to do theme song. I mean, Nikki Sixx wrote our theme song. Our Motley Crue plays on the song The Retaliator. I mean, that in and of itself, just such a beyond dream come true. But then Alan had the vision of, well, are there roles? There's such a gallery of bad guys in the movie all throughout. What if we could put some of the guys, girls in these roles? And I got to really hand it to Michael on this one too, and Alan for the vision, but Michael for executing, because at first I was a little nervous about it, because I went, oh geez, I don't want, as exciting as it was, I didn't want anyone to think that, oh, this is a vanity project and that's what this is about. And the good news was Alan didn't either, and Michael didn't either. Nobody wanted it to feel like a vanity project. So Michael worked with the actors. We curated these roles. We really looked and said, okay, where does this make sense? What would be the best fit here with this character? And we really put time into it. We spent time on the phone. Michael spent time in person working with them with, acting advice and character and all that. So, I mean, it was a gamble, it was a risk for sure. And it's another thing I'm just so proud of, to watch the movie and hear from people, and we've heard it a lot, that if you didn't know who the people were, they would just feel like other characters in the film, because we have some phenomenal character actors in the film, just phenomenal actors in the film, professional actors, and I feel like they kind of blend and go in and out, and it's pretty seamless, you know. So that's a huge credit to the work that was put in that. There was a lot of attention put into that.
Yeah, and to add to that, thanks, Darren. We did a lot of it. We talked all the time, and Darren and I were worried. You know, you have a movie with this many musicians, and you're like, oh, but you know, we wanted it to be non-gratuitous. We wanted it to be a film first, but then to have this amazing soundtrack, like all the great movies of the 80s and 90s, The Crow and Lost Boys and all the movies that we loved. But for me, and Alan said this to me from the beginning, he wanted it to be a symbiotic thing where, yeah, we have this great built-in core audience, but yet we can bring new fans to this music. So I think Jacoby Shaddix, you know, the band Papa Roach, the dude's so good in this. He's such a great bad guy. And then you hear this great song called The Ending that opens the film, and like it's such a great song. And you know, I wanted to be like, oh, I really wait. You go look it up afterward. You go, that's Jacoby, that's Papa Roach. So, and you know, like the guys in the gas station scene, they're too. It's a knock on millennials. That's a band called All Good Things. Those guys were so good, but they all brought it. You know, they came, I think, you know, look, music is performing, right? You're performing, you're singing a song, you're telling a story. And I think the goal here was to just have them bring it in a little bit more because it's for the camera. So you don't have, but they were all wonderful, really great.
Yeah, no, I liked how they were kind of like interspersed throughout. It wasn't like, you know, like it wasn't like this moment where they're like, hi, it's me, you know, kind of thing. It was like, you know, because I know that was like, that's exactly what you didn't want. And so it was great how, like, you know, it was kind of like a little fun thing because I saw in the synopsis. So I kind of had a half eye open for that. And I was like, oh, look, there's that one, that one, that. But like, you actually, half the time I forgot because you get so drawn into the thing. So it's almost like a little bonus, like, hey, look
That's
who it
awesome.
is kind of thing, you know? It's funny because Michael, you said gratuitous here. Then my next question, it blends into that nicely. So this film has a lot of gore in it and a lot of some great effects in there. So are you guys both fans of that kind of horror, or is that, you know, because I know some people like you find out they've done the goriest film ever and they're like, yeah, it's really not for me. Like, so I'm always curious to find out if the people that are in these, you know, do you like that kind of stuff?
Well, Darren can take this one away because he is a lot more than me. But what I do want to say, because he can go and, you know, he talked to me a lot about it, but I think I'm into it in a very Tarantino way, if you will. Like I love, you know, the end of his films, and I love him and his movies. So in that sense, that was the way that I digested this film, you know, and how we would have this play in our movie. So I loved it, and I love that it doesn't take itself too seriously at times, and that's a lot of fun. But Darren is very inspired by that medium. So go ahead, D.
Yeah, and all I'm a huge Tarantino fan too. Going back to, you know, I had a Reservoir Dogs poster on my wall when I was a teenager. You know, I was a huge Quentin fan. But I'm also, my brother and I are huge. We are big fans of, you know, cult cinema, exploitation, grindhouse, and the multiple, not just horror, the action. You know, we're deep into all of that. We're the good stuff all the way. We love the canon stuff from the 80s. Like, you know, we're just big fans of that as an aesthetic. It's definitely something that I think when done, I'm very picky about it. You know, I like, you know, there's gore in the Retaliators that there's some of it that's hard to watch, but I think most of it is you're ramped up and ready for it when it happens. You know, we get you a little bit early on. There's a couple, you know, I mean, I'm pretty desensitized. So, you know, you know, I mean, again, I brought up Audition, you know, I mean, that's gore, you know, when you're, you know, to me, you know, it's just, that's really, that kind of stuff's really hard to watch, but yeah, I love it. What I love is I love the audience reaction to it. I really just wanted people to react. And so when I saw the film the first time, in the theater when we were lucky enough to be asked to open Screamfest, and at the Hollywood Chinese Theater. And it was the first time most of us had been in a big public place post-COVID. This was October of 21. And so it was a sold-out crowd, and hearing people gasp and laugh and yell with the gore, it was such a high. I mean, it's still, and I've seen it in the theater now a few more times, and it's just a lot of fun. And so I just, and again, I love when more kind of highbrow mainstream, I wouldn't really call Quentin highbrow by any means, but certainly, but Quentin is at the top. He's at the Oscars and huge box office. The guy's just he's the man. But yeah, I love when it can be brought into, there's a movie called Bone Tomahawk. I don't know if you've seen it.
I've seen that.
That was a big inspiration. We were writing this. We saw that, and it was like, that's a great example of it. It's not really a horror film, but when they go for the gore, it is so impactful and so powerful. And again, it's sort of, you ramp up to it, and it's another good example of a Left Turn movie too. So yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. Practical effects are super important to me, and I know Michael and my brother, and I'm a huge splatter fan of, love all the stuff from the 80s and all the practical, and Tom Savini and all the masters and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could have seen the thing, because we got the screener of it, and I was just like, every time I'm thinking there, I'm like, I'm kind of imagining like, oh my God, an audience would be like, like going nuts at this part, and cheering here and cheering there, and it's good. It should show how good that is, though, that I still kind of, even without being in the theater, I could almost replicate that in my head. It's like,
I love it.
So.
I love it.
So guys, we're gonna wrap this up with a we always like to have a fun question here at the end. So Christmas horror movies, as you know, become extremely popular. So is The Retaliators a Christmas horror movie?
You bet your ass it is.
All right.
That's the answer I wanted to hear.
Yeah. That's where we're on. We're on that camp as well. We totally like that it's a Christmas horror movie.
We'll give you one little sidebar. Yeah. I guess I'll ask both of you where you fall on is Die Hard a Christmas movie debate, since we're all 80s fans here.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on this one. let me take it real quick, Michael, because I have been, first of all, of course it's a Christmas movie. I have fights to this day with people that say it's not. I don't understand. Yeah. To me, I mean, every year at Christmas, my wife and I, we do of course, do the obligatory, we do Christmas Vacation, and we do the straight up Christmas classics, but always Die Hard every year, and Gremlins is my other, we mentioned it a few times here, and we love that. We talked about that very early on, like, let's make a subversive Christmas movie and lean into that, because there's just such a great contrast. I don't know what it is, but Die Hard's a super bloody movie, a very violent, very bloody movie, and the juxtaposition with it being Christmas time and the Christmas music. I don't know. It's fantastic.
The other thing I want to say, it's crazy because there are people I've spoken to, and I know the Retaliators has just gotten out there, but they don't think it's a Christmas movie. Oh. And I don't understand, because I go, like, to me, it so is like, okay, so it's Christmas Eve. The pastor's doing a Christmas Eve sermon. They're buying their Christmas present.
Yeah.
His daughter's presents, right? Yeah. A present's not a present until it's wrapped. Like,
great line, by the way. I love that line, by the way.
Thank you.
I said it. He wrote it.
Yeah. I was giving you both credit. I mean,
Michael, I think we both get to take it on that one.
Yeah.
No, so it's funny because people have their point of views, and I guess that's a beautiful thing. But as we approach December, my thing in talking about the film, and hopefully it gets a little bit of a light shined on it, because Halloween, there's a lot of horror out there, right? So maybe now we can have some people see this and hopefully go on a little Christmas journey and there aren't a lot of Christmas horror films, right?
Well, now there's a lot. There's a lot out there, but
they're getting more popular.
What I was going to say is Tim and I will make sure this is in our rotation, so we'll get it out there.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Well, I guess you guys have seen they got the Hans Gruber advent calendars now.
Yeah.
They're all over the place. So.
Yeah, have you seen that? I mean, that's like, if that doesn't say this is a Christmas horror movie,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, no, I'm all for it, because I don't see why. Like, I think some people just refuse to, staunch refusal of, I will not put Christmas and horror together, and I'm like, why can it not be together? I don't understand. It's like
the best.
Yeah. So, okay, before we go though, we just want to, if you want to let our listeners know where they can see the film, and if you want to plug any some more upcoming project. But first of all, foremost, of course, let everyone know where they can see the Retaliators, because we also made this our feature episode of the week, the feature movie of the week. So we're going to go to a whole deep dive, as little spoilers as possible, because I'd hate for anyone to go into this with knowing too much. And I think we did a pretty good job of kind of whetting the appetite without giving too much away. So yeah, let everyone know where they can find it, so they can watch this along with our episode.
Yeah, I mean, the film right now, it's on video on demand anywhere you buy or rent movies. So that's iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, Comcast, all those. Anywhere you buy or rent a film. And I think it'll live this way for another 60 days or so, and then it goes to streaming down the line.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Is it going to get a Blu-ray release? Do you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a big Blu-ray collector, and I see, and we kind of have to off interview. I've been like obsessed with your background, Darren, with all the stuff I've been looking. It's like one of those like hidden puzzle things where you got to find things. I keep finding stuff in the background, so I apologize if you saw my eyes racing.
You're only looking at one corner of this room. There's this is our writing room. This is where my brother and I write. And actually, Michael, when we have because we're developing something right now. This is where we get together. You can't not be inspired in this room.
Oh my God,
it's amazing.
I mean, I see a hoverboard there. There's Rodney Dangerfield from Caddyshack in there. I see a Freddy. I saw
an Alf.
There was an Alf in there. The Tower Records thing is epic, by the way, because that's where I spent many and
a fellow Garbage Pail Kids fan.
Yeah, the Garbage Pail. That's right.
Yeah. I have a working in here in this room. I have a working Tower Records CD listening booth with the headphones working
awesome.
In the corner.
My God, that's awesome.
And the shelving that you see there is that is Tower Record shelving.
I was gonna say that is totally like that. It's one of the coolest things. You literally, for those not seeing this because this is an audio podcast, he's even got the horror label up there for the horror section. So it's like, which is like incredible. And an arcade game. I mean, like this is Tim and I are like just fawning over. Sorry, we're not trying to take away from your background, Michael, but but
can't compare. Every time I go over there and try to do work, and by the way, that's only when I'm in LA because I'm on the East Coast. I want to make like a weird science babe in there.
Oh my God! Yeah, I'm surprised there's not one in there. Oh yeah, there she is. See? She is in there. See,
Kelly, I've got that's an almost
she totally is in there.
Full size of Kelly LeBrock right there.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Tim and I'll be over there later. We're gonna.
You're
catch a flight out there
anytime. This is where we do movie night in here too. So we've got the big, we got a big screen up here. This is the room. I mean, when we're in here writing and developing, it's just the ideas just never stop.
You need to put that as a special feature on the Blu-ray, like totally like
just a room tour. Yeah.
A little 80s room tour.
Yeah, I was going to brag about my monolith, and now that's like nothing compared to this. Tim calls my wall because there's a wall up. One whole wall in my apartment is all my Blu-rays. So one time Tim and I were just on a regular Zoom, just chatting, catching up. And because we don't see each other in person very often. He's in North Carolina, I'm in New York. So and Tim goes like this, I love how I'm just talking to you and I see this monolith of Blu-rays behind you. So now it's called the monolith. So
I love
and
it.
I will proudly place a Retaliators Blu-ray there once it's ready. That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, it's funny. We got the artwork today. I said to Darren, I'm like, dude, check this out. Like,
Oh man.
it's going to be so fun, so cool. I think it's going to come out in February too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It will definitely
Very
be
cool.
purchased.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Yeah,
I mean, we love talking to filmmakers, but it's a real treat when you get to talk to filmmakers for a movie that you really enjoyed. So again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope this helps you guys get the word out a little bit more. And
Please, thank you.
And we encourage our listeners to go track this one down because it's a
Yeah.
really good time.
Yeah, and it was amazing to see, like, because I mean, so many times, you see filmmakers talk about the film, but like you guys both had the same this enthusiasm about it, and this pride that was so great to see, because it comes off, I think, in the final product, and then you guys talking about it, which actually is making me even appreciate it more, and I kind of want to go watch it again right after this.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we
So sweet.
We just have to turn that on for these podcasts so people want to go see it.
I don't know. I could tell. I can tell when it's genuine. Yeah. I can tell by just Darren's room that it's genuine. I mean,
yes.
No, it so is, and I think that's why we get along. And I said the trust thing. I mean, I think if you're not full of passion, though, honestly, you don't love it. You shouldn't do it. I mean, really, you have to run through walls. It's all about the work. And I think we come from that same school, we're built on passion and enthusiasm and like love for a project. So that's nice of you to say. And I feel that I am proud of that. And I think that I try to look at projects and look at the way that I came through this one or what we dealt with. And at the end of the day, it's just all about the work. But to do the work, you have to be passionate and you have to want to do it. So.
All right, Brian. So yeah, again, that was one of my favorite interviews we've done in quite some time. Not that I don't love all of our interviews. Our guests have been
I love
amazing.
all of them. Yeah.
We've been very fortunate to have just such good guests, but it's really a treat to hear two guys that are so passionate about that project, especially a project that we both really enjoyed.
Yeah, well, and it's fun. What I love about the some of these interviews, especially this one per se, was you find out how some of these filmmakers started out as just like with our same childhood, like we were joking, but like literally, Darren's room was like our formative years, like in physical form behind him. It was incredible, and that, he said, was just a wall, a corner, and so that to find out that that's where they do their writing in there, and I'm like, oh my god, no wonder why you're coming up with such great stuff. How could that you not be inspired in there, like he said. So
all right, well, let's get right into the movie. This was The Retaliators. It came out this year, directed by Samuel Gonzalez Jr., Michael Lombardi, and Bridget Smith. Starring Michael Lombardi as Bishop, Mark Menchaca, who we've had on before, as Jed,
yes,
Joseph Gatt as Ram Katie Kelly as Sarah, Abby Hafer as Rebecca Bishop, and Jacoby Shaddix as Quinn Brady. An upstanding pastor uncovers a dark and twisted underworld as he searches for answers surrounding his daughter's brutal murder. So this one I had no idea going in. We got sent over the screener.
And we both went in blind, which is
totally
rare for
blind,
Tim and
yeah.
I, really.
And,
but I'm starting to do that. Like I said earlier, I do that now because after Barbarian like that, like now I think I want to go into these movies as blind as possible. Obviously the big ones it's impossible to avoid spoilers like that. Like, the big, like the Halloween ones and stuff like that. But like all these other movies like this, I want to go in blind as I can, because I think you sometimes, especially now, we've seen it. How many times did they mismarket a movie by the trailer?
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, so why bother at some level?
Yeah, and I usually go into our screeners blind anyway, because a lot of the times when we get them, they're early; they haven't been released yet, and we haven't even seen a trailer. We don't even know anything about it anyway. So it would take some effort to go seek it out and try to figure out more about it. So we just kind of watch it going blind. But I didn't have any idea. When it started. Like I mentioned, it's one of those films that you think, oh, I kind of know where this is going, and then you don't.
Yeah, I mean, the opening is incredible opening,
and I loved how Darren mentioned in the interview that it's not cheap plot twists. This isn't. Oh, it goes this way, and then there's a cheap plot twist, and then it goes a different way. There's multiple twists and turns in this that you don't see coming, and it just makes it for a fun ride. And by the end of it, I didn't care to try to figure it out. By the time you get halfway through this movie, you're strapped in the roller coaster car, and you're along for the ride whether you want to be or not. And there's no use trying to fight it. So
and we're going to be intentionally vague because I think this is one of these because of those reasons you just said. I don't want to talk about too many things in detail. I'm gonna speak as much in generalities as I can, but I mean, there's something for everyone in this movie. I mean, if you want gore, there's action, you got action, there's heart in it, and it's everything, and in the end we have confirmation that we were correct. It is indeed a Christmas horror movie, so. You cannot dispute it. It came from the creators.
Yeah. If nothing else, you can put it on your list for next month to put it with your other Christmas horror movies.
Yeah, if you don't get to catch it now, we're almost in December, so you can just put it in that list. And I know I'm going to put it in my rotation for the holiday horrors. And it's the things I will say, to not spoil. I mean, the cast incredible. I mean, they've managed. Michael, we got to talk to. He is phenomenal in the lead, and he's got a big heavy lifting job here because he's got a lot of the emotional heft is on him throughout this movie. His character's got to change from what you expect. He's got to stretch to his limits, and he portrays it phenomenally. And then of course once I saw that Mark Menchaca was in this, I was like, I cannot wait. As another bonus because we've had him up before and everything I've seen him in is just absolutely phenomenal. He's such an incredible actor. If you have not seen his work, I don't know what you're really missing a lot because whatever role he has, he just hits it with perfection. Do you agree, Tim?
Yeah, I was really excited to find out he was in it because he's a great actor. Yeah, all the performances are great, and the villains, which there are villains. Yeah. That's as far as I'll go.
Yeah,
super creepy in this movie. Really, really well done. Again, great performances across the board. I will tell you, not many movies scare me these days because I watch a lot of horror movies. This one, I felt a little tinge of fear, true fear, and that was and again, we talked about this in the interview, so it's not really a spoiler, it's in the trailer, but of course something happens to Bishop's daughter. And having a daughter of my own, that gut level fear of something happening to your child, that really impacted me in this movie. That was a hard sequence to watch, knowing something's happening to your child. And it was really, really, I think Michael did a great job selling it because it was freaking me out as I was watching it. So, and not a lot of movies do that where a lot of these, God, we should desensitize me. Brian watched so many darn horror movies. I watched 42 in October. You get to the point where you're just numb to it, which I don't know is necessarily a good thing, but that type of horror, which is real life horror, something that could really happen, that's the kind that can still really, really get me.
Yeah, and still though, but it's even with that real element to it, there's a little bit of I think, what did they say? They said they didn't take it too seriously. There's a little bit of outlandishness to it that works so well in contrast together, and it's incredible how the ride it is. I was not expecting.
Yeah, and that subject matter is so heavy that if you wanted to, you could make this movie really dark and go down a really dark path that was you come out of it depressed. And I don't think that was ever the case in this movie. Yeah, you have that intensity of that happen. Then, the rest of the movie is so fun, and there's enough, I guess, redemption throughout the movie that doesn't it doesn't weigh on you I'm just kind of thinking of movies like Hostel and things like that are real, just so dark and bleak, and they never really come out of that. Whereas this one is this was much more in line with really, to Darren's point about the 80s. It does kind of have that same, and I'm not saying the same structure because, like I said, this one is very unique in the way it twists and turns. And the 80s movies were obviously very predictable, but it's got that. It's almost like that's like the big scaffolding is the 80s movie, 80s revenge movie. It's a big scaffolding, but you don't see what's going on inside of that building. until you get
that's a great way
Yeah.
to say it. Yeah, because it definitely shapes it, but and it like holds it. That's a foundation, but you don't know what's until you walk inside. You don't get all of the true joy of it, and watching it. And it's too. It's like I meant to ask them this in the or not really ask, but more comment. Like they mentioned Bishop's character. He was there's one of the big things is the theme through is the rock and roll music, which we get into in the interview. You hear that, so I'm not going to repeat that per se, but and he even said he said, well, at the pasture play like this rock and roll pasture type of guy. And I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, when he does his sermon, it's like, he's like, here he's getting really into it, and he's like, he's cool, he's like hip, and I'm thinking back to granted I'm Jewish, so but like when my rabbi used to do the sermon, that was when I took my eyes open nap,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because I've been to both sides of that. Growing up in Christian church, because I grew up Baptist, and when I was younger, it was the exact same thing. You had these real, sometimes they were fire and brimstone. When I lived out in the country, they were fire and brimstone preachers, and then when I lived in the city, it was more maybe traditional, but they were boring. And you, as a kid, mom gave you a coloring book because it was so you were bored to tears. Kind of thing. But then as I got older and I would visit church with my mom or something, or Olivia, you'd start seeing these more modern churches with video screens and bands and young pastors. And I've been to some more modern churches that are really catered to that demographic of younger people, and it's very much spot on.
Like as knowing horror fans and discussing the horror with the between our friends and our text groups online, it's like I can't see. I know the group that we talk to the most. I cannot see them not loving this movie because it had. But even if you're you're just a run of the mill horror fan, you really need to watch this because I think it's got so much extra stuff. And if you're a child of the 80s like we are, you'll even get that extra oomph to it per se, and it's like and it's so funny. I've never repeated myself, but it really was because we get a ton of these screeners, and sometimes we end up watching them and discuss them, and then sometimes it leads to the interview. This one I remember was one of these ones. As soon as I got done with it, I was like, I am so glad there's an interview set up for this because I can't wait to talk to people who worked on this.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the thing I liked the most about it was just very unique. The structure was unique. The mixing of genres was unique. I like when movies do things that I'm not expecting because, like I said, we watch so many freaking movies, and there's so movies that are the same that I love when something unique comes around. Now, the music in this movie, which had bands like Five Finger Death Punch and Papa Roach, I don't listen to those bands, not because I don't like them. I'd have never listened to that style of music, but I love the fact that they were in there because it made the movie so unique and it made the movie different from other stuff coming out. And we talked about in the interview that it did not ever come off as like a. I always laugh at these movies where they go into a club and they spend 5 minutes watching the band play, and it's some well-known band, and they're like, "See, you recognize this band, right?" There's none of that in here. I love that aspect of it, and I knew going in just enough to know that there were bands featured in it in certain roles. I didn't recognize them because I'm not familiar with the music.
Yeah, I recognize some just because of the the pop culture aspect of them. I'm seeing them in that, but yeah, I'm definitely not an expert.
Yeah, I didn't find it distracting at all. I mean, it blended right in, and I loved it. And what Michael was saying, I want to go seek out some of these bands now. That's spot on. That's spot on. Not really. I like all kinds of music. I mean, I listen to everything from classical to country to jazz to reggae to heavy metal. I listen to everything.
I figured you'd throw Taylor Swift in there after your odyssey.
Yes, of course. I listen to Taylor Swift 24/7 because of my daughter. But yeah. So I mean, I listen to everything. So there's no music I don't like. But this is just a certain little niche that I've never kind of gone down. But it definitely piqued my interest there. So yeah, it's cool. It's neat to have a film kind of do something different like that.
Yeah, and especially because the music, like it really makes. I mean, music is very impactful for a movie. If it's chosen poorly, it detracts. If it's chosen wisely and placed properly, like this one does, it adds so much.
I
to
love
it.
what
And I think this was just.
I love what Darren said about the old '80s soundtracks with the '80s feature soundtrack, because I do miss that. You obviously, Brian, I've gotten back into collecting soundtracks again.
Yep. Oh, I'm in a big soundtrack. I mean, even not record like you do, album, but yeah. I mean,
I just bought a music on vinyl. It makes really high end vinyl albums. So they do. I don't know the whole technical details around the process, but it's like audiophile quality level vinyl. And they put out an 80s collected movie hits double LP that I bought a few weeks ago. And just listening to that, it's got all the stuff on it. Danger Zone, Ghostbusters, Weird Science.
Oh, nice.
It's got all of that. And just listening to that, I'm going, man, you don't get that anymore. You don't get those movies that are really defined by soundtracks and songs that were made for the movie.
Yeah, and yet you haven't seen Streets of Fire, even though Conan.
I know. I gotta
see it.
Streets of Fire.
It's the biggest you movie with that, but it's funny you said it, because remember, like, back when they used to have those commercials for movies, and like literally the soundtrack would be featured in the trailer for the movie. It'd be at the end, it'd be like featuring soundtrack by, I mean, Flash Gordon, I remember, was huge with Queen doing the soundtrack.
They just reissued that on vinyl, by the way, too.
Oh, you got to get it. I had that. I don't know where it went.
Just to put a
I
really
lost
nice
it somewhere
reissue
down the road.
back out. They just did
you got to pick
Lost
that up.
Boys. Darren mentioned Lost Boys. That's one of the best horror soundtracks, not scores. This is like actual songs. One of the best horror soundtracks ever come out of the 80s was The Lost Boys, and that's one I need to pick up at some point, because that's just a great album. But I miss that. I really, really, really miss that. Shoot, I miss I miss sitcom theme songs. I wish they would. Yeah. I don't know how easy that would be to bring back, because I think it would come off campy now. But I really, really miss my TV theme songs.
Well, I remember I had those CD sets. Remember, like television hits from the 70s and 80s.
They've even put some of those out on vinyl.
It was like a 2 CD set. Oh, I still have the CDs of them. Yeah, they. I had them on first. I had it on audio cassette when I first got them. Then I had them. I upgraded to the CDs, and I have them all.
Those
still.
Came out on vinyl, and I was like, I can't imagine those on vinyl, because you can't just pick a song on vinyl. It's really hard to drop the needle where you want it. And those things are like...
Yes, for you young ones out there, you don't know the struggle you used to have if you wanted to hear a specific song
on a record,
on an album.
And so they came out with this, this was several months ago, they came out with this TV theme song collection, which I thought would be awesome to have, but I'm like, how would I even possibly listen to this? Because you just have to sit it on and just listen to theme songs for like 2 hours straight. I don't know how I would do that.
Yeah,
it's neat. It's a neat idea. I get it, but I can't imagine a TV theme song compilation on vinyl. It just seems such a odd pairing.
Yeah, that's got to be like a bit like it's like the perfect combo of like reminiscent joy and frustration.
Yeah, but you know what? Amazingly popular. That thing sold out like crazy. I was talking the record store guy that I frequent, the local one. I mean, that thing was flying off the shelves. People loved it. So you never know. It's crazy, but
yeah. But anyway, yeah. We'll wrap that. We were trying to keep this a little bit short because we don't want to give don't want to give too much away, and two, because we had such a great long interview, we want to kind of make sure you don't get bored of us by this point. But but definitely check out, like they said in the interview, it's on all the video on demand platforms. It's going to then go to streaming, but I would not wait. I would just watch it right away. I think you guys will absolutely love it. This is one you'll all enjoy.
All right, Brian, so what do you have for our beer pairing for the Retaliators?
So, yeah, I mean, this one is weird. So I was going to go, since it is a Christmas harbor, I was going to go with a Christmas beer. But then again, it's like I wanted to get something that matched a little bit. But to me, like, kind of those certain stouts or those things are, to me, like almost like a wintry beer.
Oh, yeah.
Anything kind of with a bunch of these things. When I think winter, I think sitting by a fireplace and drinking one of these nice beers. So I found one called Retribution, which
works.
fits in nicely to the plot. Yeah, it's from Duclaw Brewing, which I've had plenty of, that brewery, from Rosedale, Maryland. This is a strong one. It's 11.5%.
Nice.
So listen to this, though, Tim. This is, I think this is something you got to track down for Olivia here. It's, Retribution is a full-bodied and jet black with a small tan head and a complex flavor profile of dark chocolate, coffee, smoky malt, and dark fruit. concealing a massive warming 11.5 ABV. After fermentation, Retribution is aged inside of a bourbon barrel and then carefully monitored for 6+ months, resulting in a sophisticated bourbon barrel-aged imperial stout, infused with aromas and flavors of charred oak, vanilla, and caramelized sugar.
That sounds amazing. I love bourbon barrel stuff.
Oh, me too. And you know, like, remember that drink Olivia had when we were at Howl-O-Scream at the hotel bar? That, like, smoky thing like that? That's what I'm thinking of. So I'm like, oh, she would
Olivia
love
loves her stouts and coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. You put some chocolate and coffee in that thing, and she is all over it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, look, it's got it all.
It's got it's literally got everything that she likes in a stout.
Yeah.
So
you know what? Now I see what you do. What you got to do, Tim. You got to go track down this beer. You could probably get it at that halftime place that ships to you.
Yeah.
Remember the one that out in New York, but it's shipped to North Carolina. Track that down. Light your little fireplace thing you got in the Civil Gore Theater there, and like sit down with Olivia and watch the Retaliators with this nice
Perfect beer
there.
pairing.
You can, like, live the dream of the beer pairing. Right
exactly.
But so we don't have a fan topic foo right now. I think we're retooling the segment. We did get some questions filtering in, but I think we may be like a little off on these kind of segments lately. Like the To Be Trap will come back with their next season.
Yeah.
I think same with something like this. So these may be scattered. The beer pairing will always remain. That's a signature, and the first chop will always thing. But I think these post movie review things might come at like the trip. We want to have a good replacement for the triple threat. We're not sure what we're going to do yet with that. And fan topic food, we'd like to continue. We may do. I think we're gonna. We'll probably do a mix of. If we don't have any question per se, we'll do like I'll ask Tim one, he'll ask me one.
Yeah.
And then I definitely want to bring back To Be Trapped though in season
7.
The next season 7. Yeah, for because that was fun.
I think we're just trying to get through the holidays at this point. We'll kind of probably be limping through the holidays with these last segments, but season 7 we'll fire up with some more regular.
Yeah, because there's still some more interviews we're trying to get in there. We do have something we're like toying with, which I won't say yet, but that was something that first in Civil War history.
I'm going to go ahead and mention it. I think we can pull this off. It may not be.
Do you think we could?
It may not be as fully featured as I want it to be to start, but we'll see what we get feedback on. We're thinking of doing a video version of the Dismemberment.
Oh, that I was talking about the other thing.
Oh,
but
yes,
yes,
okay.
Yeah, we should.
I do want to
mention
this. I know what you're talking about, Brian. We could save that one if you want, but I'm thinking about doing a video version of the Dismemberment because what we found out is we post all of our podcast episodes to YouTube automatically, not in any kind of video form. They're just audio, and our hosting provider sends them to YouTube. And I never really looked at our numbers there, and I was going back through. Since we started uploading a few more videos lately, and going back and looking at some of our episode numbers were really good, especially weirdly enough for the Dismemberments. And I don't know why this Dismemberments were so popular on YouTube, other than maybe somebody stumbled across because they're looking for horror Blu-ray stuff or whatever. So what I thought might be fun is to, instead of record our monthly Dismemberment like we do now with regular episodes, is to record it over Zoom so that we have the video, so that you guys can kind of see a live recording of the podcast. And then that also gives me the opportunity, once my video editing skills get a little better, to add box art. While we're talking about titles, we can have box art flash up or whatever. Now, if for those of you that prefer just the podcast, we'd still release it just as we always do in audio form.
Yeah. So
you would still always have that option. It will always show up in the podcast stream. But if you wanted to, and don't mind looking at our ugly bugs for an hour and a half, you could go out to YouTube and
that is the risk you're going to now have to face, because Tim and I always say we have a face for
face for radio. I'm thinking for December. I was thinking of doing it for to kick off season 7 in January, but I think I want to try it for December just to see how it turns out. So
so it'll be a work in progress. So bear with us.
Consider December.
It literally may just be Tim and I on a Zoom, like you crashed the Zoom.
Yeah, consider December is going to be. It's probably going to be a kind of a work in progress. There may not be any graphics. It'll just be me and Brian basically talking, but you can see us how animated we get sometimes in our discussions, and we'll see how it goes. And I think it also is a good format because I don't like to do a lot of video editing on top of a lot of audio editing. So I'm thinking, because our Dismemberments are usually very casual and we don't do a lot of editing, they're kind of free form. I think it's a good fit for doing a video version. So
yeah, and I'm thinking like, if that works and people seem to enjoy it, because they say we seem to get a lot of views on our haunt videos we posted. So it seems like YouTube is is getting some more traction. So I think we do that. Who knows? Maybe like our next roundtable will even do that if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah.
Or other participants. But yeah, and then we have that. We have some other another thing we may try and do. I don't know. I just think it might be hard at this late in the game but who knows? You never know. We could feel super inspired and be able to get it done. Yeah. That'll be the other treat, but I'm not going to mention that now in case that does not come to fruition. I mean, I definitely think we'll do the video dismemberment. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, so we got more interviews lined up to round out the rest of the year. We're working.
Yeah, and we're still trying to get another one that I don't want to mention yet until we get it for sure. But it's just hard because of time zones.
Yeah, so
that's very tricky to get. But
stick with us, guys. Hope you guys have a great holiday as we're heading into this. We're gonna have some.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we're gonna have some travel stuff around.
But I don't think we'll skip a week because we'll just end up recording late next weekend because I'll be home by the the one we're recording right now will release the week of Thanksgiving, and then I'll be home that Saturday and Sunday. So I'm only gone for a week, so we'll be able to just record late and get an episode out probably still. So yeah, we still should be okay.
The week after Thanksgiving, our episode may be a little late because that's my birthday weekend. So, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So send Tim's presents to this address.
Send a self-addressed stamped envelope to.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see you guys soon, and hope you have a wonderful holiday with your families. Eat lots of turkey for me.
Yeah, Tim, and you do and I'll do the cranberry.